Thank you for joining Sports Development Series. We yours truly, Boma Ekiora.
Our Sportdev series is sponsored by Arewa Baobab Fruit Powder, one of the most nutritious substances on the planet. Get your Baobab Fruit Powder from arewabaobab.com.
Sportdev series, guys, welcome. So, November 6th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Chelsea plays Tottenham in the London Derby. Should be fun. It's going to be an exciting game. Full disclosure, I'm a Chelsea fan. So most of these games, for as long as I have been a fan, it's been easy to predict in the sense that it's just been Chelsea most of the time, beating up Tottenham. And it's even in years where, Chelsea didn't do too well. It wasn't as hard to predict. We would a lot of times come out of the game with a draw. But in this case, it's a little different. Chelsea has a younger team, new manager, first year. Players are really young, a bunch of new players, first time at the club. So it's a totally different squad. They've never been there before. And it presents a challenge. I mean, they've dropped points that should not have been dropped. Recently lost to Brentford 2-0. A Brentford team, by the way, that drew with Tottenham 2-2. So it's one of those cases where you're looking at the Chelsea team and asking yourself, are they really going to show up? It's a younger team. Oh, by the way, keep in mind, Pochettino, who's the Chelsea coach, used to coach at Tottenham. So there's a lot involved in this game at this point that I think would be interesting to take a look at. But overall, when you look at the historical context of the matchup between these two teams, one thing you realize, the first thing that jumps out at you is that Chelsea they've won more Premier League matches against Tottenham than against any other team in the EPL. Right? That's the first thing that you realize. And Tottenham has conceded more Premier League goals against Chelsea than any other opponent. So historically, Chelsea has always been able to show up and play better than Tottenham, especially in a matchup. In a head-to-head, they've played a number of times. I would say Chelsea has won most of the games, and there've been several draws as well. I would say out of 174 games, Chelsea has won 77, drawn 43, and then lost 54 to Tottenham. So it's an interesting matchup, and then when you look at the schedule for both teams currently this year, taking a look at Tottenham's schedule, first of all, they've done pretty well this year. I would say any team that they were supposed to beat, for the most part, they beat them. They beat United, right? They beat Crystal Palace. They beat Fulham in their last two games. Liverpool had a red card against them, but they beat Liverpool, right, 2-1. So it's been an interesting year for them. They've kind of beaten teams they're meant to beat. In Champions League, they've struggled a little. But I think, they've kind of done pretty well. Sorry, Champions League was last year, but they've done pretty well. They've kind of beaten teams they're supposed to beat. Chelsea, on the other hand, I mean, they drew with Arsenal. So if you're using Arsenal as a yardstick, they drew with Arsenal. Chelsea drew with Arsenal. Although the Chelsea game, Chelsea should have beaten Arsenal. There was a giveaway by the goalie that kind of brought Arsenal back into the game. That game should have been a loss. And those sort of situations, the giveaway by the goalie, the youthful mistakes are the reasons why Chelsea, looking in this situation, you might say you're not too sure if they can show up and put Spurs away. Ideally, yeah. Historically, yes. But in this case, when you look at the Arsenal game, the mistakes made. When you look at the Brentford game, right? So if you look at the Chelsea schedule, right? Lost to Brentford, drew with Arsenal. Those were the last 2 EPL games. Carabao Cup, they beat Blackburn Rovers, but you can't really pat yourself on the back for that. Compared to the Chelsea team, which has a lot more younger players, players who make a lot more mistakes. But then it's a London derby. So when these guys show up to play, they show up. So it's a little more difficult to determine. You can look at records, think one team automatically beat the next just because one team might have a poorer record, but it doesn't really, the math doesn't work out that way when it comes to a derby, right? It doesn't work out that way. They show up. So it's a hard one to call. I'm a Chelsea fan, so my emotions and everything else in me is saying just pick your team and walk away. And I want to. But, picking Chelsea, not just this year, even last year, has been difficult in games. But they do have something to play for with their coach, being a former Spurs coach. They do understand they've had a better head-to-head against the Spurs. So I think I'm going to go with Chelsea on this one, and everyone thinking that I'm doing this because I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm not. I just feel like these younger players, after what I saw against Arsenal, they were able to show up and really fight in that game. So these younger players seem to rise up to the occasion. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Chelsea on this one. Picking Chelsea to go ahead and get it done. Worst case scenario, it may be a draw. But hey, like I said before, what do I know? Thanks for joining me. Take care. Enjoy your weekend.